Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Game Informer Show, your favorite show, I'm sure. It's certainly mine. I'm your host, Ben Reeves. This is the show where we inform you about games, and joined with me today, I have Marcus Stewart.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me, Ben.
That's right. Kimberly Wallace.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for being on the show. Dan Tack.
Hey, great to be here, Ben. We're counting down the top 40 hits. Wait, wrong show.
We might count down something. We'll see. And Alex Stadnick to round out the crew. A big crew today, but a good one.
Hello,
Alex.
Glad to be here.
That's right. We got a good show. No interviews today, but later on in the show, we do want to do something about Game of the Year. We'll talk about because we're kind of halfway through the year, so we're going to ponder what has the potential to be Game of the Year for us all. We're all going to kind of round up out of the games we played so far, what is your Game of the Year to date? So stay tuned for that. Should be a fun recap of the good games of the year so far. But first, we should kick off the show with our playlist, which is where we talk about the games we've been playing recently. And Marcus, I want to start with you. What have you been playing?
So primarily, I've been playing a game called Lilies, Quietus of the Night. I think is Quietus a word? I'm not sure. I want to look
it's a word.
This. It is okay. That's good.
What does it mean, Dan?
I don't know what it means, but it's a word. We use words to, it's a cool word. I like it. All right. I don't know what it means.
Sounds like a transformer.
It's a cool word. It's a cool word. Nobody press him on it. Marcus, what's the deal with this game? This is kind of like a Metroid style game, right?
It's a very much a Metroid style as well as a Vania style. People always ask, one, what is a Metroidvania and what separates a Metroid-ish game from a Metroidvania? And I've always personally considered the Vania part to have the RPG aspects that Symphony of the Night introduced in terms of leveling your character and getting equipment. And this game is very much one of those.
Okay.
So yeah, I will say
that's a good distinction because a lot of people throw the word Metroidvania out there when it's like any Metroid game. Ori and the Will of the Wisps, for example. You weren't earning experience in that game, were you? It was only been a year since I played it, but still.
Right? That was one of my top 3 games of last year. But
and I'm like, objection. I don't think that is fair to call that a Metroidvania. I don't know. I love Castlevania. This is a diatribe soapbox, but I love Castlevania. It just feels like it gets kind of shoved in there and like, hey, you're getting credit I don't think you deserve a lot of the time. But anyway, aside from that.
Yeah. I love Castlevania too. In this game, kind of in Castlevania's sense, the entire world is that you're making your way through this giant kingdom that's divided into different biomes. So the premise is that you're this little girl who is a priestess and you wake up to find your kingdom just an absolute ruin. And kind of the only I know, right? That's the worst when you wake up and everything around you is just in shambles. And also all of your friends and family have been turned into terrible monsters, and you got to go deal with that.
Mondays, am I right?
Poor little girl.
Yeah, it's rough. She has therapy ahead of her, let's say. But she has kind of a cool guide. She has this kind of like Dark Knight dude that kind of wakes her up, and he kind of acts as both your guide, your form of exposition, and also as your literal sword and sometimes shield. Because all of the combat, or at least a lot of the base combat, is through him. So it's like a hack and slash game, but the little girl doesn't attack directly ever. What you're doing is that when you attack, he kind of pops up and does all the hack and slash and stuff, and she just kind of is like, oh god. And that goes through everything in the game. So like any Metroidvania, the idea is that you're exploring this giant labyrinth world, finding inaccessible areas, trying to find the abilities that you need to get past them. In this case, the ability that you're finding are the kind of cursed townspeople, as well as the different people that occupy the kingdom that were tasked with protecting you, because you are very important for reasons you'll find out throughout the plot. So you'll find them in kind of their cursed, diseased form, and you'll have to fight them. They're always like grotesque monsters, and when you beat them, you get a special ability. And one thing about this game is that there are a ton of powers, a lot of them optional too. Like there's the primary bosses that are kind of critical path, and they have the key abilities that you need to get through, like, hey, there's this special door that I can't get past, or this weird pulsating barrier that I need to kind of find a way to break through. Those are the critical path bosses, and those, you fight them and you'll get abilities like a double jump, or like the ability to swing on stuff, things that just make traversal easier and by default makes the game more fun to play. But there's a ton of optional mini bosses that give you different attacks. And that's kind of the primary draw for this game is like with any Metroidvania, like you need something to kind of push you to want to explore this giant map. And that's like the hook of like, oh wow, I found this boss that I killed and he just gave me this cool ability where like a guy gives me a shield that I can parry attacks and then counterattack, or like one boss gave me this pissed off bird that just flies around and shoots fireballs at people as I'm like attacking them. So he's like a sidekick. And there's a ton of these different abilities. Some of them are a little iterative of other ones. Like there's like 2 variations of like a parry attack, but the difference is that one, the parry does like a burst attack that can damage multiple enemies as opposed to one. So every time you go to a save point, you have a certain number of slots, and that kind of where the strategy comes in of like, okay, what loadout do I think I need right now? Which combination of abilities I want? I think that the game does a good job of kind of rewarding you for finding interesting combinations, because some attacks can be chained together. Like one of my go-tos was this tornado that just tears through people and can kind of get rid of flying enemies and knock them on the ground. So you can send people flying and then like catch them in the air and hit them with an air combo and finish them off before they even hit the ground. So messing around with different combinations and what sort of abilities work against different types of enemies is really fun. And like I said, the game kind of encourages you to try different things against different enemy types, because there's a ton of different enemies. And the game is pretty challenging in a way that I wasn't expecting. It's not overly difficult. Like I think it has a nice bite to it. And now you'll go into areas and you'll get wrecked by dudes, and areas are bigger than you'll expect. Like, you know, everything on the map is like a little square. So you're like, oh, okay, maybe this won't take too long. And you go in there and you're like, oh, there's like multiple floors here with like super hard dudes, like this gauntlet that I got to run through. And, but
I want to jump back to something you said. You said you have to like run back to a certain point to like switch out your loadout.
Yeah, it's like all the save
because that can be, in concept, I kind of like that idea, but I feel like in practice that can be annoying if you like get to an area and you're like, I really should have this other loadout, and then you have to run all the way back to swap it out.
Yeah, that can be, because you can only switch out your attacks and your equipment, because you get like accessories like bangles that do different things, like increase your HP, or you can heal more times, or et cetera, et cetera. You can only do that stuff at a save point. I got used to it, but like in the first few hours, it was annoying. Of like, oh, I got this cool thing. It sounds cool based on the description, but I got to run back to the nearest point to equip it and try it out. It gets easier when you unlock more, because you can fast travel between all of them. And then I think once you go through the easier area, or the areas that are earlier in the game, you can tear through them once you get stronger, which is always really satisfying when you're just like, oh, this guy was giving me a hard time and now they're nothing to me. So I didn't mind that. Exactly.
Nothing.
That's what I told them when I split their skull open. So yeah, it
Don't know why I'm bothering. This means nothing to me. There's no joy here.
But yeah, I think it bugged me up to a point where I had a really solid loadout, to where I kind of found a loadout that was good for just general things, and I wasn't as concerned with changing things up as often. But in the first few hours when you're trying out everything, yeah, it could be.
Is it just combat wise, or is there stuff that's like, oh, I need this loadout to actually pass through this gate or unlock this door?
Mostly combat, like entirely combat. Like your passive abilities like that, those are just permanent, and there's no limit to how many of those you can carry. Yeah.
Dan, I've heard you played a little bit of this game too.
I've played a lot of it. Not as much as Marcus, I don't think, but yeah, I will keep my thoughts brief, as Marcus has gone over pretty much all of the mechanics. But I will say, if you like Hollow Knight, you should play this game. All right, that's my take on it. It fits really well into that universe. Is it
as hard as Hollow Knight?
Is it as hard as Hollow Knight? Some of the environments I think are annoying as hell. I think the boss fights are really satisfying, at least the ones that I've been through. But some of the areas, just like, you know, some of that Miyazaki garbage, right? Just like, hey, you like poison swamps? We put a poison swamp in your poison swamp. What up?
No one likes poison swamps.
I was going to bring that up. It's like most of the areas
have a happy swamp. Maybe we have a happy swamp full of sparklers and birthday cakes instead of poison this time.
Even Poison Swamp's mom doesn't like Poison Swamp. That's how bad it is.
I think it's just like, I get it. Environmental challenges are a thing. There's a lot of them in this game. And you're constantly faced with it. Some of them are more interesting than others. I was like, okay, this environment's neat. I have to play differently around it. Others were just like, well, I guess I don't want to touch that thing or that thing or that thing. Well, that's fun. Not. But anyway, yeah, I've been enjoying my time with it. Certainly I haven't played it as much as Marcus, but I've I got like 4 bosses down or something like that. I'm having a pretty good 4 main bosses, and I have fun exploring. It scratches that itch. I really like it because it does fill in the room color if you've got all the secrets in the room.
I love that.
So that's so handy for going through and unraveling all of the secrets, of which there are like a zillion. There's secret items and stuff everywhere. So you really are encouraged to scour the earth.
Now, Dan, you said
cool.
If you love Hollow Knight, you should check it out. What if you feel shame for not having finished Hollow Knight?
You shouldn't feel shame.
Okay.
You shouldn't feel shame for not finishing any game, right? If you're not feeling it, put it down, move on. Life's too short to stick with games you don't like.
Yeah,
thank you.
I think this game's easier than Hollow Knight, especially in exploration, because like a lot of the challenge in Hollow Knight was like you literally couldn't see where you were going a lot of the times until you found the map person. Dan mentioned, like this game does a good job communicating, like, hey, you found everything in this room, don't worry about it anymore. And even tells you like, hey, you found a path that you can't open yet. Like at least the main paths, it'll mark on the map like a little red dot letting you know that you can go. It doesn't mark every path in that room. Like there's certain like hidden rooms or rooms that are blocked by a barrier that are not indicated. So you do have to remember like, okay, I have the ability to break through red walls. Which rooms have those again? Let me go, do some cleanup in these earlier areas real quick. But I didn't mind because I think the world is super cool. Like I think the art direction is fantastic. I think the soundtrack is really strong. So I didn't mind running around looking at stuff and listening to the music as much. And yeah, I'd say is that if you have an itch for a good Metroidvania, like I don't think this game does anything incredibly revolutionary, but games don't necessarily have to do that. Like this is just a really good one of those.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to call out real quick. The music in the game is excellent. If nothing else, it's got a great soundtrack that fits the bill. Anyway,
how many hours?
Even the story is kind of interesting too. Like the lore that you're finding, I think it goes some interesting places. So I think even that's worth paying attention to.
Nice.
Cool.
How many hours did you play in it, real quick, before we segue out?
I think I'm about like 35.
Okay.
And I was being very thorough because there's multiple endings. They do the Castlevania thing of like there's some false endings that you can run into. Like I just stumbled upon an ending and then it was like, well, that can't be it. So I went back because like I didn't even have all the main abilities yet. Like there's a bunch of locked doors that I haven't even opened yet.
Okay.
So I've seen at least 3 of them and they're labeled like AB and so on, sort of like Nier style.
Cool.
And also what's cool is that the game loads very fast. So when you die, you're just back right into it.
I love it.
That's awesome. I love that. More games should do that if technically feasible. But that's Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Night. Those are all real words too. And the review should be up hopefully by the time this podcast is up. I know Marcus, you're working on getting that done. So check it out. If you love Metroids or love Vanias, sounds like it's worth checking out. Anything else, Marcus?
Yeah, I've been playing a bit of Chicory, A Colorful Tale, which had the unfortunate release day of starting the day of Summer Games Fest, and like the heart of E3 was when this game came out. So I had like one eye on it when it was because Sony announced it when they did like a spree of announcing like 6 indie games on Twitter back to back, and this was one of them. And I was like, okay, this looks cool. But I thought at first it was just more of like an interactive coloring book, because when you look at the trailer, it really just looks like that's what it is for the most part. And like, this looks pretty, but okay. And then it wasn't until after E3 started dying down and more people started getting their hands on it that some noise started being made. I'm like, wait, there's something more here. Like the writing in this game is phenomenal. So I picked it up and I'm only like 3 hours in or so. But yeah, like it's surprisingly well written and emotional. So like the premise of this game is that you are a janitor for this legendary figure named Chicory, who
like a rabbit. All the
like
characters in the world are like animals, but they're named after food.
Yeah, everything's named after food. Like the world is called Luncheon. And even your protagonist is named after food. Like
is it trying to remind us that we eat animals?
Yeah,
like,
stop! You're making me hungry here.
I don't like that
commentary
analysis. Yeah, I never thought about that. But yeah, at the beginning of the game, we'll ask you what your favorite food is, and then that winds up being your protagonist's name.
Animals. That's what I.
What'd you pick? What'd you pick?
It's weird because I don't have a favorite food because I'm not a picky eater. I went with ice cream.
Okay.
So
All right.
my hero ice cream.
Hard to argue that.
Hold on. This next question is very important, Marcus.
You should have
What
went
is
with
your
pepperoni.
favorite type of ice cream?
I don't have a type.
No, you do. Yes, you do.
I like
Now,
things
what is
mixed in together, like combinations.
No. You got to pick one. What's your favorite ice cream?
Okay. If we're going brand, I like Ben and Jerry's a lot.
We're not going brand. We're going
Oh,
style.
flavor, man.
What does style mean? Like flavor?
Chocolate chip cookie dough. Like
I don't know. Like
what mixins
No,
do you
you
want?
do know. All right.
It depends on the base of the ice cream.
No,
if I want vanilla,
You're
this is-
killing Dan over here.
It's a
You really
simple
are killing
question.
him.
it's
Hey,
not
Dan,
though.
Yeah.
I think you have an idea of what it feels like to be us when we talk to you about backlog. I think
Well,
you have an idea of maybe.
But no, I really don't
this
have
is
a
kind of what that.
Oh my god.
All right, we're not
We
getting.
don't
into
have
this.
a singular favorite ice cream flavor.
I think we all know the correct answer is anything with Reese's
That's
Reese's
good.
peanut butter cups.
I
there.
love
That's
a
the
good
correct answer.
Reese's.
That's fair. Yeah.
thing, but you can do that with peanut butter ice cream or vanilla ice cream, and that's a whole other can of worms. Anyways, my
100%.
protagonist ice cream.
I'm not a huge fan of worms in my ice cream, but Marcus, you do you.
Hey,
Speaking of Chicory, you mentioned, or a lot of people have mentioned that this game reminds them of Undertale, and I think the writing is there, and that's why it's reminding them of Undertale. I didn't realize how much Legends of Zelda was going to be in this game too, because basically a top-down thing, and maybe it's just because I'm not super far, and it's just a top-down game, but you're solving puzzles and stuff with this paintbrush, and it's giving me some Zelda vibes that I'm really digging.
yeah, like you're using paintbrush for, like, if you paint over trees, that are blocking your way, they'll shrink and you can go past them or make them grow, vice versa. The color palette that you have is actually pretty limited, but it changes depending on the area. So you go to a new zone, they give you a whole new set of colors, and what you paint things, at least in my time that I'm playing, it doesn't really matter what color you're painting things. There's some characters that'll just be like, hey, can you paint like my house for me? And then you'll just do something. They're like, actually, like there's one guy that just makes you erase everything and then makes you start over, but he's really shy about it. And
there's one guy, we're spoiling the jokes, I guess, but one guy's like, hey, these are early jokes too, but like paint my house a really tough color. And you paint it. I think I painted it like teal. He's like, oh, awesome. What a tough color.
Yeah, they do some cool, like there's an art class you can take, or like, because the joke in the game is that because nothing you paint looks good. It really does look like a child coloring outside the lines all the time. Like the brushes, like you can change the brush side, but it's not fine enough where you would really have to take your time to make it look legitimately interesting. But the game plays with that, where because since you have adopted the role of I forget the name of the brush bearer, but like it's your responsibility to govern color in the world because it's all been sapped away and nobody knows why. And Chicory, who's in charge of it, doesn't want to do it anymore. And like you kind of like, it starts out with you stealing the brush, not knowing that she gave it up, and then she kind of just lets you keep it. So like you're like a fanboy for Chicory, so you're going around coloring things, but you can't draw. And the game, like there's an art class you can take where like everyone just assumes you can draw because you're the brush holder. So everyone's just like riding your bandwagon, basically like, oh, I bet we should talk to Ice Cream because I bet you can teach us a thing or two. And you're just kind of trying to fake it till you make it. Like, and I guess I'll paint like whatever here. And then it looks like garbage, but everyone just like, oh, wow, look at the way he used the negative space there. And just complimenting you on it. And you're like,
that's awesome.
Sure, I guess. Whatever.
This is also, what are you playing it on, Marcus?
So I'm playing it on PS5. It's on PC, and I've been curious to try it at PC because the way it works is that you're controlling the character through traditional means, but you're using the right stick to move the brush around, which is like a cursor to color. And I think it works fine, but I've heard on PC that you can use the mouse to color, which
that's what I was going to bring up.
Way to play.
I'm playing it on PC too, and I'm just like one of those rare games where I'm like, this might work better. Sorry, Dan. One of these rare games that works better on PC because of the mouse and just.
I'm sorry. What? A rare game that works better on PC? Have you played games in the last decade?
One of those rare games where I'm more excited to play it on PC, like me personally, just because of that. But like you're saying, even on the PC, Marcus, it's still all my art still looks terrible. Like even with the mouse, it's still just like I'm coloring outside of the lines all the time, which I think is an intentional choice.
Yeah, like the game, at least so far, there hasn't been any challenges. It's like color within the lines or anything. It's literally just like go wild, whatever you think looks cool. You don't have to color it all if you don't want to, outside of when you have to. Like you don't have to fill every world or every area with color. You can just literally leave it as it is. So yeah, like I don't want to spoil too much, but there are themes with this game that I'm seeing kind of like surface that are a lot darker and more mature than I expected for this, in a way that is like endearing and touching. At the same time, a lot of it revolves around Chicory herself and why she gave up being the brush wielder. Like that scene hit me in a way that I wasn't expecting. So yeah, like it's funny, but it's also like it goes some places. So I want to see. I want to finish it because I've heard this game made people cry, which I'm starting to see how
you want to finish it because it's going to make you cry.
I want to stain my beautifully colored world with my tears. Is what I'm saying. I want it to.
You've convinced me. Like I had gotten the game a while ago, but I haven't started it yet. And now I'm just, after hearing you guys talk about it, I'm like, I need to start this like now. Like as soon as I get off this podcast, I want to play it.
It's very laid back too, because there's no combat, at least not outside of boss battles. And even those are pretty. They're really clever, but they're pretty simple. Like at least the one that I did. So outside of that, though, you're just kind of going around solving these weird townspeople's different problems using your brush and just.
Oh, so like every RPG.
Yeah, pretty much. We got weird little things, and you're like, "Hey, can you find my wife? Can you color this in? Can you Can you design a T-shirt?" Which is great because people will wear your T-shirt that you design.
Oh, that's great.
Mine's a total mess. It's just like I tried to draw like a skull on it, and it's just like
why
the brush is too big. Even with a mouse, the brush is too big, and you can change the brush sizes. So maybe I just didn't do it right, but like could not draw anything that looks like anything other than a blob.
Mine just said M1, like Marcus's number one.
Oh nice. My gosh.
I was like, here. Texas seems like the only thing that could fit here. Now everyone agrees. They're wearing it. They're like, wow, this is hot.
They're like, M1, was he trying to draw the Mass Effect logo?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. See? Also, I want to call out that it might have the funniest save system I've ever seen in the game. Or not save system, a hint system. Okay. Because you can go in sort of an Earthboundy way. You can go to a phone booths that are set up. And if you ever need hints, what you do is that you call your parents, which is adorable. And your mom always answers the phone and she'll kind of talk to you about what you're doing at that time. And what she does is she gives you like a hint about what you need to go next. But then in the background, you see your dad trying to get the phone because he really wants to tell you what you have to do. And your mom will be like, oh, your father's back there. You know how he is. He always wants to, give everything away. Like, do you want to talk to him? Do you need detail on what you got to do? And so if you want to know exactly what to do, you say yes, and he'll pop on and he's just like, okay, here's what you got to do. And he just very excitedly spells out exactly what you have to do next. And it's so funny and it's so adorable. So it always makes me laugh. Like I always want to talk to those guys.
That is fun.
So
awesome. Hey, reminder, call your parents.
Exactly.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds like an awesome, adorable game. I know Reiner's working on a review. Hopefully we'll have that up soon. I know he's a busy guy. He didn't have time to jump on the podcast, unfortunately, to talk about it. But my impression is he's liking it a lot as well. So check it out. Chicory, A Colorful Tale. Yeah, it's fun. Cool. Let's see, Alex. I'm curious to know what you've been doing.
Avast me hearties. We be setting sail on the seven seas. Sea of Thieves, a pirate's life, baby. Now I need to write it down.
Oh, you've been living a little late on this.
Yeah,
because this came out, 2 weeks ago now? Like the Pirate's Life
last
update?
Week.
I think it was
it just last week?
Yeah, it was just last week.
Time is bizarre, man.
Yeah, time is a flat circle. But yeah, I am very curious about this game. Not curious enough to have played it myself, but curious enough that I want to hear all the information from you.
Yeah.
Is this worth playing?
So I unequivocally, I think yes, especially if you have Game Pass. So to set the scene a little bit, Sea of Thieves has been out 2 years now. It's been a while, and I think what Rare's done with this game is exceptional. I think it took a game that had a lot of promise at the launch and really built out the content in it, and I think this is the best update they've had. For those who haven't seen, it is the Jack Sparrow Captain or Pirates of the Caribbean crossover. And it's not just it's not just skins or like one mission. It's a full like 5 tall tales. And to me, it is exactly what I wanted. Not exactly, because I didn't think we'd get, Jack Sparrow in a game and Davy Jones and whatnot, but it hits a need that I wanted from this game that I didn't get in the beginning, and that was like a very solid story experience. Because in the beginning, right, Sea of Thieves was very much create your own adventure, go on these missions with your friends and stuff like that. And that was great. Like I've had some, like they've been few and far between, but whenever I would log on, always have a blast with my friends playing the game. And then it would just kind of drop off and we'd come back to it every once in a while. So, but this story is exactly what I wanted. It is interesting. I have a lot of nostalgia for Pirates of the Caribbean. I grew up watching those movies, it tells this tale of, it sounds familiar, right? But it's you go to the land of the dead, you're looking for something, you find it's Jack Sparrow, but he has this treasure that could doom the Sea of Thieves, and then Davy Jones gets him and you have to go after him, and it goes from there. But it plays with that mythic element of pirates in a really cool way. Like the visuals are absolutely gorgeous in it. I'm playing on 4K Series X, and it is like that game already had the best water in games, I think pretty easily. But combined with some of these new enemies and especially some of this more mythic like Land of the Dead, which was already they touched on that a little bit, right? But it's just a treat. And it's like I said, it's if for anyone who wants a more story-based experience out of Sea of Thieves, like this is the time to jump in, because the update's free. If you have Sea of Thieves, you have this.
Yeah, if you already have Sea of Thieves, and Sea of Thieves is in Game Pass, I think you mentioned.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. So if you have Game Pass or own the game for some other reason, yeah, the barrier to entry here is almost non-existent.
Very low. Yes, sir.
Marcus. I have a very important question.
Hit me.
Is the story in its expansion, or just in general, is it better than the last 2 Pirates of the Caribbean movies?
Unequivocally so. Yes.
Okay, that's all I need.
Yeah. That's not a high bar. But yes, I love it. I love being able to interact with these characters and feel like I'm in a Pirates movie, a good Pirates movie.
Mm-hmm.
Is it better than the Pirates of the Caribbean section in Kingdom Hearts?
Oh,
ooh, that's
Alex.
Yeah.
Wait, what's
You're careful here, Alex.
Because there's been 2 of them now.
So Alex, you're saying it's good.
Kingdom Hearts 3 has a really good Pirates of the Caribbean.
That's the World's End one, which is neat.
Yeah. And I wasn't even excited for that at all. And
yeah,
it was a good world.
I may be showing my butt here a little bit here, but I think it's the same voice actor.
It is.
They got in Kingdom Hearts, is it? Okay, yeah.
Yep.
He does a great job for Captain Jack. He's got the the voice down pretty well. Shocking for.
It's also cool. Yeah, it's also cool because it's like inspired by the movies, but also by the theme park ride, to where they recreated scenes from the ride and even got the original audio from the ride to play over the
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like the dudes in the jail trying to lure the dog, or the guy
I love little stuff like that. Like when they go and do that and bring it into a game, I just always so good.
You get that right away too. Like that first mission, I didn't know that they got the original audio, but I think I said it on stream with my buddies. I'm like, this just feels like the Pirates ride from Disney World.
Isn't it weird how iconic that scene is with like the men trying to lure the dog over with the, because like it is a quick aside, but like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, the new one, there's a scene where you go to a pirate world and they recreated that. There's a scene in that of like some futuristic alien pirates trying to lure over some kind of dog with a key, and you're like, that's totally a Pirates of the Caribbean reference. That's crazy. That's in Ratchet and Clank. And anyway,
what's cool is that now in this expansion, you can lure the dog with your money, because you can buy that dog as a pet in the expansion.
Yeah. So I haven't beat it yet, but I am fully intend to. This has my attention in ways that it hasn't before, and something that I'm looking forward to going and playing again. And I think it sounds cliche, but I think it's true in this case, where it's like, if you've been sitting on the fence for Sea of Thieves, if you've been hearing about like, it's thriving player count and like the season passes and stuff, and you've been interested, I feel like this is the time to jump in, because I think you can jump in right away to the Pirates stuff, a Pirate's Life expansion. It's just, she's the quest giver looks like Tia Dalma from the first 3. and you just go talk to her, and you get your adventure started right away. It is a blast, and I am very I think it's one of the better pieces of DLC we'll get this year for sure.
Nice.
Well, I don't think we're doing a review on that one, but we do have some impressions up on the site, and we also streamed it.
Yeah.
So if you want to watch our archived stream, you can go check that out. It's
sure.
worth checking out.
Definitely.
Dan.
Hello.
What?
Yeah, what's up? That's right.
That's right. He's got his own theme song and everything. Yep.
Wait a minute.
Dan, how's it going? What's on your playlist?
Gosh, there's so many things, but I think one I want to call out here today is a little game we like to call Wildermyth. So what is Wildermyth? All right, let me lay it down for you, elevator style here. Let's just go through it real quick. Pop-up book fantasy XCOM with procedurally generated story. All right, that's what this is.
I just made this up. This isn't a real game.
This is a real thing. Imagine a D&D campaign that you can have on the fly, by yourself. It's really cool. Great combat, really interesting and creative combat mechanics. But again, I guess if I had to style it to something that you could instantly recognize would be XCOM, like you have like a % chance to land attacks and spells and stuff, but you can get very creative with it. And it's a very creative, very heartwarming game in the sense that you will have a different roguelike, scary word, campaign every time. The story is a procedurally generated aspect. So you don't know who you're going to romance. You don't know who you could turn into a wolf. You could turn into a golem. You could turn into a hill spirit. You don't know what's going to happen to your characters. All kinds of wacky stuff can happen. And every play is different. Now, the overworld stuff, like sort of resource management stuff, I don't dig that much, but the combat is great. And the procedurally generated story sounds like the most ridiculous thing ever, right? That sounds like a pitch you hear in like behind closed door at E3 and the game never comes out, right? I mean, I've heard that before. Anyway.
Isn't that what Ken Levine's been working on for like 2 decades now? Sure,
why not? Probably.
And he can't figure it out, but did these guys figure it out? Is it kind of work?
So like what, like it's not completely like, procedure. Which story you're going to be when you start an arc. But it's really it's just and it fits with the style. It's just like heartwarming pop-up book style where you feel like, I'm having a little mini D&D campaign in this cute little storybook, and God, I'm going to get slaughtered by this boss, but it's all good because it's cute and there's cute stories and non-cute stories too. But you can have kids. All of this kind of stuff is going on. Like, yeah, and they will follow you to other campaigns too. Like if you end up completing a campaign, you can like take the characters that like survived and you can stick them into another campaign and you can pull them out for it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's like D&D.
It is. It's really cool. It's a really cool indie game. If you're into D&D at all, this is definitely a number one pick for you. If you like fantasy and XCOM, probably investigate. Yeah. So this should be on a lot of your radars, basically.
Well, Dan, as you know, anytime I hear the words XCOM, the hairs on the back of my neck stand up in attention and I get excited. But I went and looked at this game and something about the art style turned me off a little bit. Maybe it was just the still pictures. Is it better in motion?
I mean, maybe it doesn't resonate with you. I like the pop-up book style. I think it sort of fits for the fantasy storytelling that the game does. But no, if you don't like what you see, it doesn't really change in game. Like that is.
I just wondered if I saw still pictures, so I just wondered if in motion it looked more interesting.
Yeah, this is not a cinematic experience of any style. You're going to get lots of still cuts during storyline, lots of dialogue, no voice. Again, it's an indie game, but it's really good at what it does, and I think they're doing some really cool, fun stuff. And I think this is a game of interest. It's on my radar. Bing.
Yeah, Wildermyth. It does sound cool. I think I'm going to give it a shot just because like you're recommending it.
Yeah,
I'll play anything you recommend, Dan. Is there anything else you want to hit quick before we go?
We've already tackled a lot. I've been playing Ender Lilies, as mentioned. Playing a lot of DBD. The 5th anniversary's just started. All kinds of cool stuff. Nothing else I really want to bring up on the playlist, though.
Okay, cool. Well, Kim, how's it going? What have you been playing?
Well, I was able to play the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles recently for a preview. They let me play a few cases. And for those who don't know, that is a collection of both the Great Ace Attorney adventures that came out in 2013 and 2017's The Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. It is a spin-off of the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney series, except this one brings you to the Victorian era in Britain, and you play as Phoenix Wright's ancestor, Rionuske. And you befriend the great Herlock Sholmes and you help him, you investigate crime scenes as you do in the Ace Attorney games and piece together clues. And,
hold on. Is this set in London then? Or is it set in Japan? Okay.
So the game starts off in Japan and then you go study abroad in Britain. So the majority of the game takes place in Britain. I haven't played enough to know how much you move back and forth between the two, obviously, but this was a series that we never got in North America because it's a little tricky with the localization, having that, as I'm talking now, I'm like, oh, it's in the Victorian area in Britain, but you also are in Japan for part of it and trying to get both the cultures down. Like, it's tricky, but from what I've played so far, like, the localization is done so well. The puns we've come to expect from the series, the zany over-the-top characters. If you like the Ace Attorney series, you're going to want to play this. And it's a good starting point, I think, for newcomers as well, because it doesn't have, although there's some characters, names that might come up that you'll recognize, there's not too many. If you haven't played this, you wouldn't know what was going on. So it's a great game.
That's exactly what I was going to ask, because I've never played the Ace Attorney games.
Oh, okay.
I've always been Ace curious, you could say, and so I'm like, well, that's a thing, right? So I've always been like, I should dive into these because people like Joe Juba, friend of the show, ex-Game Informer editor, was a huge fan and always trumpeted them up. Mm-hmm. But you're saying I could start here and kind of get
you could start here and be fine. Although I do recommend playing the trilogy, the Phoenix Wright trilogy, just because there's a reason why that game comes to every platform possible, every new console generation, because that trilogy is just so iconic and well done. I can't speak for now. I like what I've played so far, but I've only played 3 cases from the game. So like I said, this is a collection that includes both the games. These games originally were on DS and mobile in Japan. And so now we're getting it on, for the first time, westward, PS4, Switch, and PC. And that comes out on July 27th. So I got to see a little bit of some of the new features, there might be at times more than one person on the stand and you can swap between them if you notice someone appears to, their body language changes and you can tell they're having a thought. You can kind of call them out on it. I like it because Herlock Sholmes is horrible at his job. And so he'll make these deductions that are just wrong. And you have to deduce yourself what is actually the correct, conclusion and what actually happened. So you're constantly correcting him through that. I'm trying to think what else is new. Oh, there's a new thing where you sway jury members on your side by, they'll say, I believe this. And then you try to get them on your side by presenting different evidence or pressing them on certain statements to sway the jury in your favor. So there's some new mechanics. And I also like too that there's also a new auto advancing story mode if you don't want to do all the logic based kind of puzzles and stuff. So if you just wanted the story and characters, that's new for this. You could just do that. It comes with dual Japanese and English audio. So if you didn't, you wanted to experience it in Japanese, you could do that. And I'm really I've been wanting this series to cut this spin-off to come over, and I never thought it would. Every time I'd go to Tokyo Game Show, I would see it'd be I'd play a little bit of it and I'd be like, please bring it over, but I never thought it was going to.
Yeah, so they finally listened to you. They're like,
yeah, it was all me, guys. Give me the creds, please, for it. But yeah, if you're interested in seeing some of the game and finding out more, me, Alex, and Dan Tack did a new gameplay today that is up on the site right now that you can watch and actually see some of the gameplay.
So that's, Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Sounds really cool, Kim. Comes out on, I believe, PS4, PC, and Switch next month. And we'll probably have a review when it goes out. So stay tuned for that. But if you're a fan of the series, check it out. If you're a fan of adventure games, sounds like it's also worth checking out. You been doing anything else, Kim?
Oh, just been playing Legend of Mana Remaster as well. I'm a big Mana fan, as is the DT over here. And
Dan, didn't you mention that too? Like, I thought that game had come out like 2 years ago. Is that?
I didn't want to get into this.
He doesn't like it.
I do not like the remaster. I don't even like the game, but I do I do like the Mana series. Okay, obviously, I'm very excited about the prospect of a new Mana. That's some of the news, right? But I love Trials of Mana. I love Secret of Mana to death. I thought Legend of Mana was sort of where the series began to lose its way.
No.
It was
the great Mana game.
I like some of the components. I like creating your own little world. I think that's cool. I think the combat feels clunky and just wooden.
The combat has not aged well. And even back then was a little rough around the edges. But
I think and I think combat is like one of the real time combat was always one of the big hooks for Mana. Back in the day when it was.
Yeah, but it doesn't play that different from like going back to Secret or any of them where you have to line up your attacks correctly.
Anyway, I don't like it.
Wow. Biatch. Wow.
Wow. What?
More like fails of Mana.
Oh, hey, everybody now. I love this game because it's different. You know what? It's a very unconventional Mana title because you are, as Dan was talking about, you're building the world. You're deciding where to place different landmarks. You go and visit places and it's up to you. It doesn't hold your hand. It's up to you to like seek out where you need to go in the story. And I know some people, will feel differently about it. I found it made me really investigate the world and watching it come to life and populate and you deciding, because the further away you place different landmarks and dungeons and stuff from your home base, the harder they'll be. And so you kind of have this, like, you're slowly building up, like I said, the world how you want to, and your placement can like determine, like, sometimes if you're gonna like be able to catch a rare monster, there's monster collecting, so you can collect monsters to fight with you. There's also a really cool like way you can customize and make your own weapons. You have your own workshop. You have gardening, farming you can do to like feed monsters to catch them. There's a lot to this game of like building up your own base. And it, like I said, it was early days here because this is a PS1 title, but I feel like the remaster, oh my God, the new rearranged tracks by Yoko Shimomura, slay! They are so good. The music is still, you got to admit that, Tack. The music's still really effing good, and I really like the rearrangements, and I like the vibrant world. But yeah, I still love the game. I
got no beef with the music. Music's great. It slaps, as do most of the Mana tracks. I'll give you that.
But yeah, I've been playing that. I go back to it, like I said, every few years to see if I'll feel differently about it. And I still think, like, for its time, it had a lot of inventive ideas, and it was, like I said, unconventional, and that's part of what I like about it.
Cool. Sounds like a fun history lesson for those of us who missed it. All right, we should probably wrap here in a sec, but I want to highlight one game I played this week, Lego Builder's Journey.
Oh,
it was originally on Apple Arcade. It's a game from Light Brick Studio. It's like this very light puzzle game. So if you have Apple Arcade, you can just download it, check it out. It's also now on PC and Switch. And I was curious because I saw a friend of the show, Danny O'Dwyer, tweeting about how it made him cry, and I was like, okay. Hold on. Do we have a Chicory situation going on here? I need to cry all over my ice cream, I guess. Yeah. So I want to, it didn't make me cry personally, but to each his own. it is a very cute little game. It basically ends up being a story about this little Lego brick creature and his father and their journey that they go on.
Aww.
But you play, see, it is cute. Like, and it's does a good like kind of emotional journey you go on, and each level is its own fixed vignette. Very simple controls, like you pick up the Legos and place them, and you're basically trying to create a path for this kid to move along. So that's, again, very light, very sort of easy puzzle game. Overhype it or anything, because personally I'm a little mixed on it. I don't think it's like the best game I played recently, but I did want to highlight it just because like it's it's fun, it's cute. If you're looking for just a light, easy puzzle game, there you go.
Yeah, it looks nice too, just fidelity wise.
Yeah, I mean, if you play on PC, you can play with ray tracing on. So if you have a computer that can handle that, my computer like started chugging a little bit once I turned it up to max, but it did look really good. So if you have a computer that can handle that, it's worth checking out just for that.
Cool.
So yeah, there you go. Lego Builder's Journey. Check it out. Maybe. It's kind of fun. All right, let's take a break and we'll come back with our Game of the Year talk. Welcome back, everybody, to the Game Informer Show. Crew's still here, and we've come to a segment we like to call Let's Skin a Goatee. Maybe need some work. Not my best, but hey, we're on a time crunch. This is what we were going to do. We're about halfway through the year. So we're talking about, this is the time of the year where it's fun to start thinking like, okay, what's my game of the year going to be? And have I already played it? Like, because there's a good chance I may have played it already. So the five of us have assembled our top 3 picks for our personal game of the year. We're just going to go around in a circle and say like, okay, this is my number 3. And then we'll go around again, do our number 2, 1, so on forth. So just kind of like a reminder of like, here's all the great games that have come out this year. And like, there's a good chance this could be my top 3. I mean, obviously this could change, but let's recap the year so far. So Kim, let's go in reverse order. Let's start with you. What's your number 3?
I was not prepared for this. So part of me wants to say Mass Effect Legendary for this, because when I think back on the year and what has like the most memorable times I've had with games so far, like replaying through that, it was quite an experience. But because it's more remaster, I'm actually gonna kind of go with something that's a little bit between a remaster and a remake instead to change things up, which would be Nier Replicant, baby.
Oh, sure. Of course.
Because I loved the original Nier for the story, but the gameplay was rough around the edges, and I felt like they did a really great job improving the combat, which was an area that always, for me, felt like a missed opportunity with the first game. So, same great story, great music, something I recommend people experience, and then just they enhanced it at a new level that, like I said, it making it so new people could come into the series and not have to put up with some of that clunkier, boring gameplay that they had before with the action combat.
Yeah, no, that's a great choice. I'm working my way through it and enjoying it quite a bit.
Nice.
Let's keep moving. Dan, go for it. Number 3.
Number 3. This is going to surprise some folks listening at home, I'm sure. Scarlet Nexus.
Hey, baby.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, this is a game that, just oozes style, okay? Yeah, the dialogue in the story is crap, but, the combat is killer, and the aesthetic is awesome, and I hope that this becomes a franchise and becomes a big thing for them. Love it. I didn't know what the hell Brainpunk was. I still, nobody still really does.
Don't. Yeah, what the hell's going on?
It's awesome. I'm here for it. Let's do it. Let's put that cool face mask on. Let's do anime. Let's go. All right, there, done. Boom.
I love doing anime.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm surprised that's that high on your list so far. That's awesome. All right, Alex, go for it.
For sure. I thought about putting Scarlet Nexus at 3. I'm all in on that game, and but I'm not. I also want to shout out Little Nightmares 2, even though it's not my top 3. That's going to be a top 10 game for me this year. Exceptional, very great game. But I think we got to kick things off here with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. The best version of Ratchet, I think, in a long line of great games. You know, great to some didn't hit that level, but just the level of polish and detail in this game is incredible. Like, I also think time and place matters in this because we don't get a ton of those games, right? It's not the age of the platforming mascots, right? Mascot platformer. I was trying to put that sentence together, but so I think it's refreshing in that, and it's nostalgic in that way. But with the coat of paint of like, oh my god, this is finally like a PS5 game in its visual fidelity and some of the stuff it does with the SSD and going through those riffs, right? Story's interesting. I really liked Rivet, Jennifer Hale's character. It's just like perfect summer game for me. It was light, and it was like, you know, 15, 20 hours or whatever. I platinumed it. I really love this game, and I think Insomniac knocked it out of the park.
It's like a tube of Pringles. Did you just
humble brag that platinum trophy? Did you just humble brag that sucker up? All right.
A lot of people actually have gotten the platinum. It's a pretty easy to platinum to get. I've seen a lot of
platinum did 15 hours. No big deal.
You know, yeah.
The game tells you everything is.
Yeah.
I love that too, because Insomniac did that with Spider-Man as well, where the platinum was super easy to get, and that actually kind of encouraged me to play it more and get that platinum. So I think that's smart. Like, I almost think, like, rather than take the Assassin's Creed approach and just like, there's this massive game, I'm never going to see everything, make it a little bit easier for me to do everything, and I might actually do all that stuff and see all the work you put into that game. Anyway, there's another soapbox for you. I think it's a great choice, Alex. I love Ratchet and Clank as well, and it's on my list. A little preview of what's to come. Yeah. But you highlighted it and kind of blew past it. But like the narrative, I don't want to like make a big deal about it, but it was better than I expected and more interesting than I expected. And there's a lot of like cool little character moments between all the characters that was fun. And I love upgrading all the weapons.
Yeah. Yeah. I almost said the BFG, but what's the Rhino? The Rhino that kicks all the ass. It is so great. Like,
and there's a lot of just awesome set piece action moments where things are exploding all over the place and you're grinding on stuff and jumping off stuff. Yeah. It was a fun game. All right, cool. Marcus.
Hey, so I'll preface this by saying Ratchet and Clank is not on my list because I have not yet finished it. So I know that might surprise people because if you know me, you know I'm a giant Ratchet and Clank fan, but that's why it's not here because I think I'm like a little over halfway through it. But my number 3 is a game that technically didn't come out this year, but at the same time, it came out this year, really, and that's Devotion.
I don't think you can count that, but whatever. I'm not going to be a rules lawyer here.
See, here's the thing, Dan. It came out in 2019, but was around for less than a week before it got pulled. It was around for literally mere days before it got pulled because of the controversy with the Chinese government. We don't need to get into that. And it was gone for 2 years before the developer Red Candles Games finally had to self-publish and self-release the game on their own storefront.
Yeah, and you can only buy it on their website, right?
Yeah, like you can't get it on Steam, you can't get it on GOG. GOG straight up said like, nah, even after saying like, yeah, we'll do it, but that's a whole other story. So yeah, you have to.
They're challenging. They're actually going to do it. Oh, they're calling us on this bluff. No,
crap. So yeah, you actually have to go to Red Candle's website to buy this game, but I recommend it. It is a very effective and very well-made horror game. The idea is that it takes place in the 80s. You're in Taiwan, which is where the developer's from, and you're playing. Like you're exploring the lives of this small family, like a mom and dad and a very chronically ill daughter, and kind of finding out what happened to them, like what kind of drove them apart. And you're replaying the same apartment over and over. So it's got like mild PT vibes, but it goes beyond that. And it's got some really cool vignettes. Like the horror is really effective and not predictable a lot of the times too. And it's just really well paced, and just the variety of scares is really impressive. But also what impressed me most is that it has like genuinely touching moments, like the actual story about like the daughter having to deal with her parents fighting and like her own just like physical challenges and how that's affecting their family. It was like there was more to that than I expected for an otherwise very scary game, but they're like one of my favorite sequences of the year isn't even a scary moment from that game. It's like a genuinely touching moment where you're like, reading a story to your daughter, and it's incredibly well done. It just comes out of nowhere. But yeah, it's not long. It's like, which is good because it ends before it can kind of wear out its welcome, like 3 hours maybe. And it's
I didn't realize it was that short.
It's like, not a long game.
It's like 2 hours. I mean, I guess it can range, obviously, but yeah, it almost took me like 2, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, like three. Depending how
That's not
It took me an hour and a half. I don't know.
Yeah.
Alex, what about you? Did you beat it in 40 minutes?
43 seconds. That's my time.
Oh, speedrunner.
So Marcus,
static.
it lived up to the hype for you then after having all this, you know.
It did, and I did.
Yeah.
And I didn't play their last game, Detention, so I didn't even have that hype
Detention's
going
good,
into it. I just had like the word of mouth and just like the mystique of like this game that wasn't around forever that a very small amount of people managed to play. So yeah, I played it all in one sitting, which is what I recommend if you can brave that. And I think so far, I mean, there hasn't been like a ton of super big horror games, but I think it's the premier horror game this year.
Awesome.
So far.
Wow. So they did Detention, Devotion. The next game they do has to start with a D, right? What's it going to be called?
Well, I guess that already
Damnation?
happened. There was already a Damnation game. Dan
Deliberation.
Dan Helsing,
Dan
the video
Helsing.
game.
Dan Helsing.
Tack.
It's just Dan Tack. It's just
Dan Tack.
It's just a Dan Tax.
Truly the most horrific game ever imagined.
Danorrhea.
A lot of hot takes, a lot of souls.
I don't want a case of that.
Sounds spicy.
No.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
It sounds like something you could have after taco night. I don't want any of that.
A little too many. Awesome choice. Thanks for the reminder, Marcus. I need to play that game for sure. Okay. I want to highlight my third choice, number 3 right now. A little bit of an oddball choice as well. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury.
Super Mario, you mean?
What did I say?
Oh,
I said Paper Mario? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was confused for a second. I was like, there's a Paper Mario?
Super Mario World 3D. Oh gosh, now I can't even say that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Bowser's Fury, baby.
The long
Yeah, Bowser's
title.
Fury. Exactly. And I put it on there for Bowser's Fury because, I mean, it's weird to highlight this game that I played 70% of 8 years ago because the Bowser's Fury part is not huge. It probably is like 5 hours long total. But I had so much fun with that I'm like, this is awesome. This feels like a brand new Mario game. And it's a different type of Mario game than I played before because it's open world experiment. But I think it's a really cool experiment that Nintendo should do more of, and I would love to see more games in this mold from Nintendo. So if you haven't played it and you're in the mood for another Mario game, definitely don't sleep on Bowser's Fury.
Also, 3D World is great in itself. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I went back and replayed that game this year as well, and 100%ed it because I hadn't, and that game still holds up. It's great.
yo, we all flexing today, baby. 100%
That's
right.
Mario, platinum trophies.
Yeah. It took me like 2 minutes or something. Yeah, it was nothing. Kim, your number 2. What is it?
I mean, Alex stole it. It was Ratchet and Clank was my number. I really enjoyed my time with it, and it is such a good showpiece for the PS5 and what is capable on it. Because some of the scenes when I would just watch them, I'd be like, oh my God, this just looks so good, you know? So yeah, that I had a lot of fun with Ratchet, A Rift Apart, Ratchet and Clank, A Rift Apart. That is my number 2.
Awesome. Dan, number 2.
Yeah. So a little bit of controversial decision here.
Ooh.
I decided to go with a game from 2021 for one of my top games of 2021.
That seems like a weird choice, Stan. I don't know if that's allowed.
Little Nightmares 2. This game is
Yeah.
excellent. This game is a masterclass in environmental storytelling. There's no stupid little notes to pick up. There's no, nothing to read. Everything is told to you through the environment. It's incredible. It's atmospheric. It's creepy. It's great. Love it. Play this game. I loved it so much. I went back and played Little Nightmares 1. Wasn't as good. Little Nightmares 2 is like a more refined
Yes.
experience, I think.
Yeah.
But it's great. I typically don't even like puzzle games or platform games, right? Like those are they're lower on my list of I got to play that. This game rocks. Go play it today. Boom.
Has easily one of the scariest things I've ever played in it. The school scene, the end of that.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, my
Mannequin
God.
Room.
Yeah. Yep.
Oof.
I love that. Yeah, that game is so good. That world is
That
so
game is really
interesting, even without, like Dan said, explaining anything.
Yeah,
Did you
I'm
guys-
not running around the haunted house picking up a note. Yes, on December 1775, a ghost appeared. I don't care. Show it to me. And they do, and they produce, and they follow through. It's freaking great. Yeah.
And if you haven't yet, there's like DLC for the first game. I can't remember what it's called
There is.
offhand, but there's like 3 sets of it, which add up to almost a full new game. And if you haven't played it, it's equally as good as the first Little Nightmares. And I recommend, it kind of creates a trilogy for you. If you haven't played the Little Nightmares games, they're great. Do it.
Yeah, those games.
Alex,
Play
what
the
about
first one before the second.
I would say you don't have to, but I think it benefits you.
It helps contextualize stuff, and that DLC is important and devastating. There's some like really dark stuff that happens in that. But anyways, let's do number 2, shall we?
Yes.
Company's been in the news lately. Good for them. Very excited. Little studio named Housemark getting bought up by Sony. Coming into 2021, flexing their guns, showing off Returnal, my number 2 game of the year. This game slaps. It's hard as balls, but it is so good. That bullet hell action mixed with some of the most solid third-person shooting I think we've had in a little bit. In a basically like, if you like Aliens or Prometheus, which I guess maybe not as many people like Prometheus, but like if you like that kind of world, it feels like this is a game in that world with this ancient alien civilization that is just bizarre and interesting. Like the stuff that they do with the main character, and like you're going around and you're finding, I don't think this is a spoiler, but like you're finding her bodies and she's like freaking out because she's stuck on this planet, right? And it just does some really interesting stuff with the story mixed with like some of the most white knuckle action I think you're going to find. I think the save system has slowed me, though I don't think it's a deal breaker. And I'm enamored with this, and it's another one where it's like, whilst I think it could be done on like the PS4, like it is a nice like game to have on your PS5 to like kind of show it off if you have friends around, like, yo, check out Returnal. And I was not expecting to like this game because I like shooters, right? But I don't like the roguelike aspects of it usually throw me off and whatnot. But I think this game is one hell of a time, and I think if you have the patience, it's definitely worth your time.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great choice. Friend of the show, Kyle Hilliard, referred to it as like the atmosphere is what Metroid should be, modern Metroid should be. And I was like, I think that's a good call, because it does have that creepy, atmospheric, sci-fi, alien vibe, which the old Metroids had down. They didn't have the graphics to support, but like your mind, they were spooky, and that's exactly what they were going for. So that helped kind of unlock some things for me, and I appreciate that game a lot more. All right, moving on. Marcus.
Okay, Returnal was almost my number 2, but it was beat out by Resident Evil Village, which I finished much later than I think everyone here, but finally did it. And yeah, I love this game for the most part. It's got problems. I think the back half gets a little up and downy, but I think overall I had a great time with it. I love the first person perspective of Resident Evil. I kind of hope they stick with that for a little bit longer with like 9 or wherever they decide to go. And I love the open nature of it. I love the village, and I love that it's just basically a poo-poo platter of everything Resident Evil. Like so many different platter? Yeah, poo-poo platter.
All foods, of all the words or foods you could have used to describe the game, you picked the poo-poo platter.
The poo-poo platter is a cherished and delicious sampler. You go to any Chinese restaurant, who does not like a good poo-poo platter?
Is that a Florida thing? I have actually.
Oh, that's like every Chinese restaurant.
I can't even right now. I can't even.
Kidding?
That is the food you chose to like in the game too. Specifically, the poo-poo platter. All right, hey,
everyone listening, all readers commenting, let me know. Everyone knows you like a good poo-poo platter. You get the ribs, you get all that good stuff. Ooh. Resident Evil Village, good poo-poo platter. The ribs in this case, Dimitris Castle. It's like traditional Resident Evil going through one environment. It got lady monsters,
slow smoked. Yeah, the delicious castle.
Fall off the bone. When she grabs you, you literally fall off your bone because you're so scared. Just meat falling out of your skeleton. And yeah, like just the other areas, like the four lords, like they all bring something different to the table stylistically. I won't say anything about like the dollhouse because I think that's the best thing in that game. And
It is.
and one of my favorite just
the worst part.
like moments and sequences of the year is just everything that happens in that section.
That is such a good section.
Yeah, wait, hold on. You played through that, Alex, and you still think that Little Nightmares is the scariest moment?
We'll get to that.
Okay, interesting.
I see. But yeah, this is just a tightly, for the most part, well-made game. It plays well. It's ridiculous in mostly good, fun ways, even when it just goes completely off the rails towards the end. It was like I couldn't help but laugh at certain points.
Oh yeah.
Like the only real bummer of the game was maybe the final boss fight. Actually, and Chris being maybe a bit of an idiot, but like even then, I liked him. I was always happy to see him, and that's probably a lot of more nostalgia than anything. You're like, oh, Chris, that's my man. Been with me since 96.
Chris, you're breaking my heart.
That's a sharp coat you got on, man. Man, why didn't you tell me some things?
You know what?
But like,
he's always been a sharp dresser. I got to give him that.
Yeah. So yeah, like I think it's just a really fun spiritual successor to Resident Evil 4, and yeah, great game. Loved it.
Yeah, great choice. Cool.
Great
My number two. I keep flip-flopping between 1 and 2, honestly. So I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the year these are flipped. But currently, I'm listing Ratchet and Clank as my number 2. Great game. We've already talked about it a ton. We don't need to belabor the point, but number 2, great game. All right, number ones. Let's do this. Kim, these are currently our game of the years.
When I look back on this year and the game that like I couldn't stop playing, that had the most memorable moments for me, Resident Evil Village. Just because like I don't need to go into much more than we already did, but as that dollhouse, those sequences, I had so much fun. I tore through that game like so quickly. And for me, that's always a sign of a really great game, is when you just cannot put it down. And the faster I get through something, the more I'm just like, yep, that was it for me. And I think that game has those, memorable boss fights that you love so much about the series. It does the crazy, like off the rails stuff Resident Evil is known for. And I like where it ended, and I'm excited to see where the series is going to go because of that ending. So it got me excited for whatever is next. And
yeah, that's a great point. We recorded a spoiled episode on the whole thing, but we talk in depth about the ending and the post-credit scene, if you haven't watched that. So, I mean, go finish the game first, but then watch our spoiled.
Yes.
If you want to listen to us break it down. Cool. Dantac, I think I know what you're going to say, but
I think you
go ahead and say it.
Listen, my number one is a real platter. All right.
Whoa. Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
Because it came out in 2019 or what?
Listen, no. It's great. It's a great game. I was making it, I'm alluding, we're making associations. Yeah. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, I got it.
Listen, this game is amazing. It's called Returnal. It's already been talked about. I mean, everybody knows I was going to pick that. It has one of the best boss fights in the last decade. I talked about environmental storytelling with Little Nightmares. I don't want to spoil this moment for people who still haven't had it. There is some really great environmental vibing that leads to a very, very big payoff. This is a very well crafted game, and I'm very excited to see what else Housemarque has in store for us as they bring the bullet hell to an elevated experience outside of the arcade. You know what I mean? Like I have no problem with the twin stick arcade shooters and stuff like that. They're very arcadey, but they've really dressed it up here with Returnal, and they do a lot of really great things. If you're scared of it because it's a roguelike, don't be. You can do it, my friend. Get in there, have fun, play, explore.
Yeah.
All right, that's it.
It's not a cakewalk, but like you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great game. I started playing and I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to finish this game, but I did. I finished it. It's on my top 10, not top 3, but it's worth sticking with because I think it grows on you like a fungus.
Like
it's
one
not a
of the
great analogy.
parasites you throw on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like it does grow on you in a good way.
Yeah.
Like a good fungus. All right, Alex, go for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I come to you a changed man from whence you first known me. Because in the year of our Lord 2021, I am sitting here telling you today that Resident Evil Village is my game of the year for the first half.
Wow.
If I'm lying, I'm dying, folks. I can't believe it. We did the cover story. I had passing interest. It's always one of those things where the series is legacy, and I want to understand why people like it, but I'm also a big scaredy cat. Maybe not a scaredy cat as much as I thought anymore. Regardless, it was so bizarre and weird, and I loved almost every second of it. And you pointed out earlier, Ben, I said Little Nightmares 2 had one of the scariest moments of the year. I think RE Village unequivocally has the scariest moment of the year. I also think it is a bit of a personal thing for me because how I played it, I played that with my partner and her sister, like almost all the way. So we got to just scream and yell together basically through the entire thing, and it just elevated that experience. But I just that world was so interesting to me, how they explain the more mythological aspects of it, of the Lycan and of the other stuff. I think we talk about the dollhouse moment. I think the Lady D fight is one of my moments of the year. Like just the scale and epicness of that thing. And it kind of hits in a Scarlet Nexus vibe too, where it's like sometimes this doesn't make any sense. Like, why has this man lost his hand so many times? What the hell's going on? But it concludes in a way that I rolled my eyes a couple of times, but I was like, this is just fun. This is a fun game. And it had just like I said epicness before, but the epicness of like a good summer blockbuster movie. And
yes,
there's just some great moments in that. And I don't know if it's going to finish my number one, but it is definitely I didn't think I would even play this game, let alone like fall in love with it like I did. So
I'm impressed you finished it.
Yeah.
Good work, dude.
Thank you.
Proud of
Congrats. Yeah. You've really grown as a person.
Growing. Yeah.
You can stop growing. I think you're big enough.
I'm
right.
ADD size now. It's not good. I can't get through doors.
Marcus, hit us.
Yeah, so this is a game that I really liked at the time I reviewed it, and it's the more I thought about it after the fact, the more it continues to grow on me and stick with me, and that is Before Your Eyes.
Ah, yes.
Like the narrative adventure game that is played with your actual eyeballs, because how it works on PC, and they plug in your webcam and you control everything by blinking. So imagine a point and click adventure game that you blinked instead of clicking. And the basic premise is that you're reliving the life of this guy named Benjamin Byrne, who has since passed on, and he's kind of like in the afterlife, and his soul is being shepherded by this ferryman who's like, hey, I'm going to take you to the gatekeeper that's going to, I guess, take you to the great beyond. But before that, she has to test you, and you got to give an honest assessment of the kind of person that you were in life. So we're going to relive your entire life from birth to whenever you died. And you gotta, whatever you tell me, we're gonna present. And so the whole game plays through like a series of vignettes of, you start when you're a little kid. It's a very small cast. It's literally just Ben, his parents, and this little girl named Chloe, who's like his childhood friend. And the way it works is that by blinking at specific times, it'll skip ahead, sometimes days, months, or even years into the future. And it's kind of like a viewfinder, like those old school viewfinders that you used to mess with. It feels like that. And it's so effective in like selling that like dreamlike quality, and also the idea that memories are fleeting. Because there are times where like, you'll blink involuntarily and you might skip ahead when you didn't want to. You're like, oh, they were still talking and I'm now somewhere else. But even then, I kind of liked it just because to me, it proved that like, no memory, even the most cherished ones, like some of those even like they eventually fade when we don't want them to. And I think it gets that point across really well. And also it's used very cleverly. Like there's times where you have to close your eyes to eavesdrop. So like the volume will increase with your eyes closed and you're like trying to hear behind like a door, your parents talking about you or something like that. It's like little things like that it sounds simple, but when you're doing it, because you can't play this game entirely with a mouse. Like if you don't want to use your eyes, if that bothers you, you can do that. And I played the game twice.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think it works great. Like I never had to calibrate my webcam. It always worked super fine. But like I played the game twice, mouse and with webcam, and like it's just loses a bit of its punch if you're not using the webcam.
Yeah. Do yourself a favor and play with the webcam first if you're gonna. I think it's just super first of all, the gimmick's awesomely done. But then also it also has a really affecting story narrative.
My God.
And it's also one of those things where it's like, I don't know about you guys, but when I started the game, just like, cause it has that like crazy, like, okay, I'm blinking. Like it already seems so like future tech. I was like, wait, how do they know my name is Ben? Like I was like for a little bit, I was like, wait, somehow they know my name already. And it took me a minute to realize.
Is that a reaction anytime there's a character that has your name? Like, whoa.
Wait, how do they know? Yeah. But I also was like, I wonder if I'm more affected by this story because my name's actually Ben. So anytime they say Ben, like my mom, the mom in the game is talking to me and saying Ben. I was like, oh, this is working on a slightly different level maybe for me than other people. But
yeah, that's how I feel when I play Gears of War. Anytime Dom's one at me, I'm like, Dom, yeah, man. But yeah, I would say this game legit made me cry. Like I think the ending is it's crazy. It is so bittersweet and it hits so hard. And even playing it twice, the second time I still teared up at it. Like it's hard to talk about it because it's not a long game. It's about 90 minutes. It's a movie, so you can be in and out. But just the themes of like self-worth and like existentialism about like this kid who was like a prodigy, naturally talented, had a great family, which a lot of it too is like the cast is so good, like the performances are so well done that you get so endeared to his parents and they love him, but like even then he just doesn't feel like he belongs. And like it's like the way it ends, like God, it's crazy. It's an amazing game narratively. Like again, it's hard to talk around it because it's not long, but I recommend anyone just pick it up. It's 90 minutes, like I said, in and out. And it's not that expensive. It's only on PC because of the webcam stuff, but I think it has one of the most affecting narratives of anything I've played this year.
Yeah, that's an awesome highlight. And people can read your review online if they want to hear a little bit more.
Yes, for sure.
All right. My number one, this probably isn't going to surprise anybody here, but it's Resident Evil Village. Great game.
Yeah, one of us.
That's right.
One of us.
It's a village.
That's right.
It does take a village.
It takes a village. It's a great game. Currently my number one. We'll see if it is at the end of the year. It very well could still be that. I wrote a review online, so I won't spend a lot of words here talking about it, but go read that. Probably the best way to describe it, it's a poo-poo platter. You know, if I had to just sum it all up, like that's the best way to describe it.
You guys want to get Chinese takeout?
Yes.
You can share a poo-poo platter. Everyone gets what they want.
That sounds lovely.
Thank you for introducing that word to my lexicon. All right. That wraps that segment up. Real quick, just highlight real quick. Like there's a few games coming out. We don't have to like go in order or anything, but I'm curious. Does anybody here think any of the upcoming games on the calendar will overtake what is currently your number one? Like what is the game that has the potential to do that?
Okay, if Horizon Forbidden West comes out this year, which we don't know, could go either way. I could definitely see that being my number one.
Yeah,
that's a good choice.
I have a tie between three. It's Horizon, Metroid Dread, and
I forgot that's this year.
Yeah, and then Dying Light 2. Though I will say, Dying Light 2 can't get it until they insert a colon between that name and the subtitle "Stay Human." Yeah. Until they do that, it will forever hold it back from true number one status.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I think your list is kind of my list there, Marcus. Metroid probably being like the one that I'm like, that has the best potential just because I'm a huge fan for Metroid to begin with. So, you know, I'm an easy mark maybe there. But then I think Horizon probably has a chance of not even coming out this year. So Metroid probably has the best chance of beating what I got.
Yeah.
Dan or Alex, do you have anything?
I think Metroid could do it. For some reason, I just don't feel like it will. And then I'm going to pick the dark horse candidate here with Shin Megami Tensei 5.
Yes!
Coming in hot for the potential. I mean, I don't really think it's going to, but I would love it if it did.
Yes.
For sure. I think I look at this year, the rest of this year, and there's a lot of games coming out. And I think it has a potential to be, I don't know if we're going to get the 10 like we did last year with Last of Us, right? But I think this has a potential to be an amazing year. And in that vein, it's hard. Like there's a lot, but I think my three I would say Metroid Dread 100%. The one game that was a huge surprise, but especially after playing Samus Returns, all in. Give me more of that. Battlefield 2042 looks like everything I want from Battlefield, and could be my multiplayer shooter. But folks, let's stay on brand, shall we? Halo Infinite's potentially coming this year, holiday. We don't know. And I want a reason to get up on the rooftop and scream, Halo is back. And I think if they knock it out of the park, that will be my goatee. So we'll see, though. They have a lot to prove.
Awesome choices. Yeah, it'll be fun to reconvene maybe in 6 months and see how close we were and how much
all these games let us down.
Yeah. Oh, bummer. Top 3 games of the year.
They haven't changed.
No, I think there's a good chance.
Yeah.
A couple good games. I almost forgot about Halo. That's a good choice, Alex.
That's what I'm here for.
Cool. Well, that wraps that segment up. So let's take another break and then we'll come back for some emails.
Emails!
Welcome back, everybody. We're back once again. Just can't get rid of us today, can ya? We're here to do some community emails. These are emails that you guys send in to podcast@GameInformer.com. You can send us questions, games, whatever. Kim, what do you like to get in the mail?
Presents.
Presents. We would love a present in our email. Podcast@GameInformer.com. Please send it now. We need it. This first email comes in from Mike B. He writes in and says, hello, everyone. And at the Awesome Game Informer, that's what it says. Hello, everyone at the Awesome Game Informer. If you could bring back any of these shows about games, which would you bring back and why? Starcade, Nice Arcade, or G4's Arena? My personal choice would be probably, I think when he wrote Nice Arcade, I swear he wrote Nice, he meant Nick's Arcade, that 90s show.
Yep.
Nick's Arcade, as a 90s kid, that looked like the coolest thing ever. Great. Thanks for writing in, Mike B. Great question. Love it. One thing, I don't like the question. I want to change it a little bit. I think it should probably be just like any game theme, TV show, whatever. I was a big fan of Nintendo. Gosh, now I can't remember the name. It was Captain the Game N. Master. What's it called? Captain N.
Captain N. And that was actually going to be my choice.
So yeah, that was a game. Great video game show. Why did you love it, Dan?
It was really fun because, I look back at it today and it was like, man, this is just like some unabashed marketing and IP abuse. But as a kid,
it was awesome.
It was cool to see which video games they were gonna explore every week. I was like, is it gonna be Mega Man? Is it gonna be Zelda? I don't know, but it's all cool. Captain and the Game Master, let's go. And he'd go to all those different worlds. I don't know if it holds up. Now I kind of want to go watch them and see if it does. I'm sure it doesn't, but
it doesn't hold up, but it doesn't hold up in an amazing way. You go back and you're like, here's these characters that you know and love, and they're just acting like absurd, weird, alternate dimension characters from what you know. Like they go to this Donkey Kong forest and he's like a crazy ape that's trying to kill him. I don't know. It's interesting.
Mega Man's weird voice in that show.
Yeah, Mega Man had
That's the one thing
voice.
that sticks with me is his voice.
Yep. Great choice. Yeah, anybody else? I also wanted to highlight Electric Playground, like an actual video game news show, but Tommy Tallarico. That show, I think, actually, it was on TV for like 2 decades plus, and I think Victor is still running it in online form. So it's actually still around technically, but I'd love to see it back. I love the classic 90s version, which you can watch. You can watch old versions of the show on YouTube now, which I recommend.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I loved Kirby Right Back at You back in the day. I actually watched that. Oh, you're watching it?
No, I did watch it at its time.
I thought you meant like right now. I was like, what world is this?
What a coincidence.
I don't know if it holds up today. I would be, but I'm all in on seeing more like Kirby and that era.
Yes.
So that show is just, I don't know, it was just dumb fun. Kirby's cute. Give me more of it. It seems like a Netflix show.
Yeah. I liked awesome. That web show that Machinima did, Mortal Kombat Legacy. That was around for like 2 seasons, and it was kind of like a grounded, very gritty take on the Mortal Kombat universe. Like, it was released only on YouTube. Season 1 was really good, and it was just it did a good job reimagining those characters for the most part. And season 1 was kind of like every episode introduced each character, and then season 2 brought them together for the actual tournament. And season 2, unfortunately, wasn't as good because like a bunch of the cast was just recasted, and some other problems hit the show. And then season 3 was supposed to happen, but never did. So I've always wanted to see, I wanted to see that finished because it ended. They brought back, oh my God, I always forget his name, but the Shang Tsung from the 95 movie. He came back as Shang Tsung for that show, like long before
the actual actor.
Yeah. Like people think that he only came when he came back for MK11, and that was the first time he reprised the role. But like, no, he came back towards the end of season 2 of Legacy to play an older Shang Tsung. But we never got to see season 3 to see him, go all the way with it. So yeah, I would have liked to see what a third season of that show would have looked like.
Cool choice. Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like when you talk about video game shows, there's so much more variety, obviously, than film, but also maybe a higher quality bar.
Yeah. I think maybe lower expectations to a degree too.
Well, there's stuff like, I just think of the Castlevania show on Netflix is doing really well. And there's other stuff like that, I think, right?
Yeah. I think TV is a better medium to tell these stories, right? Because we're getting 30, 40 to 100-hour experiences in this, and that's damn near impossible to replicate over 2 hours. So I am excited about this TV renaissance of video game content. So we'll see if it's actually fruitful or not. But
I wanted to ask, it seemed controversial, but does Reboot count?
Ooh,
it's like sort of a video game world, but it's in a computer. No, it's kind of adjacent to games, maybe. But okay,
let's see. Han, what's your take on it?
He says no.
I don't think Reboot counts.
Oh, you don't have a take on it? Okay,
that is my. That's my take. I don't think it counts as a video game.
I mean,
the only real take is that Reboot is just awesome at everything.
Sure. I like Reboot a lot. Like, I just don't think it counts. It's not in the same space as Super Mario or Zelda or the Captain N or these other video game properties.
Not an adaptation.
Reboot seemed like the coolest thing ever because it was all CG. When it first came on, you're like, oh, it's a game made by computers and it's set in a computer. It's so meta and awesome. And if you go back and look at it now, you're like, what? How did we ever watch this thing?
Made by computers for computers.
I think PS1 graphics look better. I don't know what we were thinking.
Clarissa explains it all. She was basically a game developer.
Not a video game property.
Still.
Shout out to Clarissa.
What do you think?
It relates to video games. She made those cool video games on her computer. Come on.
She was the first indie developer.
All right, cool. Everything on Nickelodeon is a video game now. All right, done. We're done. Sweet.
Yeah, I think maybe my favorite video game show is Seinfeld.
Me too. I really like that. One of my favorite video game shows.
Yeah.
It counts because there's that episode with George and the Frogger machine. So
that's right.
It's now a video game property. Let's do it.
Hey. We're good at this.
I love game shows. I love game shows and would love to see Nick Arcade brought back, but I don't know how you make that interesting nowadays because back in the day, like the cool thing was playing on those the machines that looked really cool. They're larger than life,
It's just convincing kids today that arcades are cool. It's just someone that it's the original Nick Arcade was taking kids through arcades. It's like a museum piece.
Yeah, right.
Well, and recreating those games in real life was a little more fun. Like now it's like, hey, all right, here's this realistic looking Last of Us or Call of Duty.
Right. You just put people in VR, right? Like
with this in mind, I'm changing my answer from Captain N. We're going to go with Are You Afraid of the Dark? My favorite video game property.
Man, I'm going to slap you from a freaking... I can't do it in person.
That's the next Dark Pictures anthology game, right? It's just Are You Afraid of the Dark?
That popular video game show? It was right after Double Dare, my other favorite video game show. And there are lots of really good ones.
All right, next email, Jaquez. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm sorry, Jaquez. Jaquez from South Africa. Thanks for listening. I was watching rapper Danny Brown's stream in which he was watching the E3 Indie Showcase. This is a couple weeks back.
Danny
and he
Brown
said,
into the Twitch game? We're screwed.
Also, who's Danny Brown?
Oh, he's a rapper.
I don't know how often he streams. I actually don't know. Yeah. But that'd be interesting to check in, see if he wants to be on the show. Danny, hit us up. Anyway.
You know how to get a hold of us. Podcast@GameInformer.com.
Boom.
That's right. Yeah, send me an email. Anyway, when Danny was streaming, he would see a game that did not look fun to play, and he would say, I bet that's got a fire storyline, though. So what are some games that don't have good gameplay but have a fire storyline? And I actually wanted to pair this with the next email because it's a similar theme. So hold on to your answers. I want to hear them in a minute. Mike also wrote in. He said, hey, I was vindicated while listening to an episode a few weeks ago when Blake mentioned that he didn't like when games change mechanics for one or two missions. He mentioned Final Fantasy VII's motorcycle chase scene as an example, and everyone seemed to agree with him. That's exactly what I was saying, only when you read my letter, you guys were like, oh, I like that. I think I like that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I like that too.
These are two very different questions to me, but
Yeah,
I'm glad you paired them together, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say like they're kind of. I mean,
you guys don't see the link. Actually,
I don't at all.
Hold on. He's going on to get to a question. So anyway, I wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
Here's the question. How much does story matter in video games? I mean, really matter. The reason I'm curious is because as much as we talk about a game story and how we overanalyze it and use it as a part of the review criteria, how much do game stories do you actually retain from start to finish? Maybe it's just me, but I find myself zoning out during a lot of cutscenes and dialogue sections. I'll check my phone or just sort of daydream. I want to fully understand the story and follow along, and I do a pretty good job at the beginning, but once I reach like the 10-hour mark, I start to sort of lose focus. So what do you guys think? Like, it's two different things. Like what makes a good story, and then also, do they actually matter? I guess to answer the first question about maybe crappy games with good stories, Crisis Core comes to mind, Final Fantasy VII. I don't think the gameplay is bad, but I think it's like aggressively mediocre. I remember like it's just very repetitive combat.
I actually replayed it recently on a stream, and whew, it's rough to go back to. I wish they'd just remake it, to be honest with you. Yeah, like literally just remake it in the style of 7 remake and just retain that story, because like the story was the only thing that got me through that game. I mean, there's also my answer is like used to be the original Nier, because like the story is fantastic, but like the combat was not that great, and then they fixed a little bit of that now. So that's not my answer anymore. I don't know what it is. I don't know now. And a lot of people say Nier Automata is like great pinnacle of video game storytelling. Pinnacle? Don't they?
Do they now?
Ooh. Well, I think Kim was talking about original Nier, right?
Yeah.
Like
I know. Yeah. I was just mentioning Nier Automata. Oh, okay.
I was just saying in a twisted answer, Sonic 06, like that story's bad, but it's so bad that it's good that I beat that game on my own volition because I just wanted to laugh at the plot, and I put up with all of that game's BS to get to the next stupid cutscene.
Wow.
So
I wanted to highlight Uncharted 4 just because I think Last of Us gets a ton of praise, and I think rightfully so, but I think Uncharted 4 maybe gets a little overlooked in that. And in some ways, I think it's maybe, I don't know if I want to say better story, but I think it resonated more with me personally, just because it was a little bit lighter and fun, but also like there's a lot of like meaningful character moments sprinkled in there that it made. They did really good with the they did a really good job in that game.
Yeah.
I guess to answer the question of does how much does story matter? I think developer intent matters in this, and what kind of game you're creating, right? We're not going to sit here and review, well, I can't speak for everyone, but like I'm not going to sit here and review Fortnite and dock it because it's not making me cry. You know what I mean? Like it's meant to be a multiplayer experience.
We're talking about crying a lot today with video games. I don't know what it is.
We got a lot on our plates, Kim. But like
it's a poo-poo platter.
It is quite the poo-poo platter. But like, if something like Sony's games, right, over the last couple of years have been very narrative based, like, that those are meant to be story driven games like Last of Us, like God of War, like Horizon and stuff. And if you're checking your phone through that, then, obviously everyone's taste is subjective, but then like, then that's an issue. If a game is meant to like really push a story, then, and it's not doing that, then that's an issue. And that's something I think it should be docked for. But I also don't think those Sony games have an issue with that. So I know I come to games for like the awesome combat, like in Scarlet Nexus, right? I absolutely love the combat in that, to the point where the nonsense about brain punk doesn't matter to me. Like, it's just like it's set dressing, you know. But like I love BioShock because it told a story that hadn't been told and pushed video games forward in the medium. Same with like The Last of Us. So I do think story matters in the context of what the developer's trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a very interesting take. I mean, I agree with that. I think story can either be a big deal or it can be nothing, depending on the game. Normally, I would always say that I'm a gameplay first kind of guy, but the story does matter in some games and it doesn't matter in others. This is not it's not a one size fits all thing, right? And as for the thing saying like, you know, if the game sucks and the story's good, that's called a movie.
Right? Yeah.
All right, that we already have those.
Yeah. That was quotable. Everybody quote it on a t-shirt. Dan Tack. That's a
Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I think story, this is just my personal opinion, so it's not gospel, you know, so, you know,
it
don't worship me.
You are a good gospel.
But I care a lot about story. Like even if it sucks. So like Diablo, for example, I don't think anybody really cares too much about the lore in Diablo outside of Blizzard.
I think the Diablo story sucks, but it's certainly like, you know exactly what you're getting there. It's a pretty, there's a big bad guy and we're going to go get him, damn it.
Exactly. But I like that it's there. I like that there's at least some, even the narrative's not great and that's fine. I like that there is something there. There's a reason that I'm killing these monsters. There's a reason I'm like traversing these mines. Like give me even like a crappy story that I don't care about and I forget as soon as I hear about it. I still want it there. That's my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. I think it's ultimately a very personal thing. I don't think there's really an umbrella answer like does the story matter, yes or no. I think if story matters to you no matter what, then it does. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. Like I've known no sane people that the reader described that will play story focused games and will skip through all that stuff like
Antac,
BioShock and stuff, like not paying attention to anything. Like I just want to shoot big daddies.
I got called out there. But I think story is really important in some games and completely meaningless in others. Like I don't care about the story in Gauntlet Legends. If I'm playing Gauntlet Legends for the story, then I'm in the wrong place.
Dan kills me sometimes because he just with RPGs sometimes will just skip past stuff. And
have you seen some of the RPGs that I've been playing? You're gonna skip. I mean, come on. I loved Scarlet Nexus, but it sure as hell wasn't for the story. All right, and when I was doing those side quests, I was like, God. But I wish I wasn't reviewing this so I could just hit the skip button. But I am reviewing it, so I'm going to go through it.
But it's a personal thing, right? Like I've met people that games that have minimal to no story that give a crap about the plot, like Zelda. Like people that care about the Zelda timeline that I don't personally subscribe to. I think it's kind of nonsense and nebulous, but people are so invested in it. And it's like there's no right or wrong answer there. It's like whatever you put your personal value in, you know?
I think I always like having story there, even if it's bad, which is what I already said. But for example, something like Bejeweled doesn't need a story. You know, you can play that game and have fun. But if you add a story to it, like something like Puzzle Quest, that first one at least, the good one, like I enjoyed having at least a little bit of narrative spread in there to like keep me string along. Like, hey, why am I doing these puzzles? Like that was to me fun and a better version of what already existed before.
And again, story is not a one-size-fits-all word when it comes to games. Like Dead by Daylight. I mean, come on. The story is what happens when I'm in the game with the other players, right? That's the emergent narrative. Mm-hmm. It's not, Michael Myers went and killed some people today. It's like, that's not the story of the game, right? It's how things play out. And it's different for all kinds of different gaming experiences, which is why games are so cool. Every experience is different. And sometimes the story is going to matter a lot, and other times it's not going to matter at all. It really depends on an experience to experience level, right? Like, it matters a lot when I'm playing Edith Finch, but it doesn't matter at all when I'm playing Gauntlet, because Blue Wizard is about to die and needs food badly. That is not a story. Nobody cares. All right? It's very different, and it's very specific to each experience.
But if they threw a good story on there, wouldn't you enjoy it more, you think?
I think if Gauntlet if using Gauntlet as an example, I think if Gauntlet attempted to make it a story-driven game, it would probably suck ass.
Well,
Kim, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say I kind of like hate you guys right now because I thought that I would have a lot to say for my answer for this question because I am very invested in story. But then Marcus, and between what Marcus and Dan both just said, it was like shades of what I was going to say. So I'm not going to prolong it any more than that. But I'm.
So you're saying rewind about 4 minutes and just listen to them again?
Yeah, and just pretend I said it. Okay.
Okay. That sounds good. I'll do that when I re-listen to this. Yeah, I don't know. Sounds like there's a couple different opinions here, which is totally fine because everybody comes to games for different reasons, and that's totally fine. I don't want to like skip over the because I know I combined these emails, which maybe was a mistake. Now that I'm thinking about it,
I'm going to say there's a lot to unpack here.
But I'm curious, like, what are some games with fire storylines? Like, I just finished Judgment this year, and I thought that game. That's the reason I came to that game was for that story. And it was fun and a little bit pulpy, but I totally loved it and I ate it up. Another one I wanted to call out is just the Legacy of Kain games are really fun, especially the Soul Reaver. Man, can't even say the games. The Soul Reaver games themselves, I thought had a really fun narrative that I think still holds up.
I mean, I agree with you, Ben, but the problem is the question was what games had bad gameplay but good stories, right? So that makes it a lot trickier.
We're the mixed masters, though. We can change it up here.
You know what? I will has awesome gameplay, also good stories.
I think Judgment, I wouldn't say it had bad gameplay, but there were like mini games that I think were bad, and so like the gameplay itself wasn't amazing.
You bad at the claw games, what I'm hearing.
Yeah, the claw game sucked.
Okay. I do.
You know, this is I don't subscribe to this opinion, but I know a lot of people do. Red Dead Redemption 2, I think the story is phenomenal, and I love that game. And it's arguably my favorite game of the last generation, but I know people had a lot of trouble with the mechanics of that game and how it controlled. I didn't. I was fine with it, but I could also understand why the way that game controls bothered a lot, because I know people that bounced on that game because they just could not get behind how it controlled.
Yeah.
But I know others that put up with it because the narrative grabbed them, so that in terms of recent stuff, that might be like the ultimate example of this what this question is asking.
For sure.
Yeah, I really just don't like the question because, again, most of the game experiences that I had that I think of like really cool stories are also very good games, like Undertale, BioShock, for example. Those are two of the big standouts. People always ask me, but Dan, you don't like any of the stories in games. Well, there's a couple for you.
Bang, got him. Sit down. I do think Florence is an interesting one here for me because I think that game's story is incredible. I'm not a mobile game player, so like I don't love some of the mechanics, but they also work in the context of the game. But it's not why I came to it, right? Also play Florence because that is one of the best love stories in games.
Yes,
one of the most honest looks. So
that game's really good.
The gears in my head were turning while Alex was speaking, so I'm going to go with Edith Finch. Not a game known for its gameplay mechanics, but an excellent tale to weave yourself through.
Wait, what? I feel like, I mean, the tale is what it's known for, but I also think the game mechanics are what it's known for.
I think the game mechanics do a really good job of telling the story through gameplay mechanics, but it's not like, it's not a white knuckle thrill ride as you press A and B on your controller. So if that's what's being referred to here, it's tough. It's tough. Sure. This question was not good.
I mean, Dan, you don't really like or care about story though, so.
See, that's not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair. All right. You know what? People are going to say it anyway, so I don't care anymore.
Just, you know what?
Dan Tag hates story.
Then what was the reader's name that asked this?
It was not a jab at the reader at the question. I just think it's a really difficult question.
It's a difficult thing to answer, but
Jackie's from South Africa. Sorry if we butchered your question.
No, we didn't butcher. Again, it's on me.
I would love to hear from listeners too. If anybody's listening is like, oh, you didn't mention this game. It's the perfect example of like terrible gameplay and awesome storytelling. Send it in.
They'll hit us with it.
Yeah, I would love to.
Let us know in the comments, YouTube. Yeah, I know they're coming. Hit me.
Shenmue. Maybe that's the best example, actually. People are really invested in that story. I've never played them, but everything about the mechanics sounds torturous to me. But it seems like people only come to those games for the story.
Yeah, man. In 2000, it did seem like it had an interesting story. I'll say about it. Yep, sure did. Okay, final email. Attack Corgi writes in and says, "Hello, GI crowd. Did you know that people hypothesize going back in time to kill Hitler to prevent World War II. Of course, that's like the thing. Whenever
I think people were thinking that about, at the time.
Yeah, well, yeah. If only we had a time machine, we could go kill him as a baby.
Like a year ago, we could take this guy out.
Yeah. Anyway, they say, well, let's say you can go back in time in a time machine and prevent a game from being made. Which one of these do you choose for the betterment of gamer kind? But beware of the butterfly effect.
Okay, well, I mean, I wasn't gonna. I've already made myself a huge jerk this episode, so I might as well just go with it. I'm gonna pick Clash of Clans and all of the disgusting monetization models that happened as a result of mobile gaming going where it's gone. And they're, somebody's got to be the selection, so I'll pick Clash of Clans. It could have been a lot of different titles, but basically what I'm trying to do is eliminate mobile monetization, which I'll never do. And now it's seeped into all of our other gaming experiences, and we'll never get rid of it. So
the hero we need, not the one we deserve, Dan.
I try.
Could we?
Do you think if that didn't exist, though, that it wouldn't?
No, it would still happen. But in the nature, in the spirit of the question, I'm going to pick. I got to pick the fall guy for that. Sure. For mobile monetization.
You're trying to change history for good, and like if you're going to do it, how do you do it? Yeah, that's a good effort.
You realize that like Destiny is going to happen; it'll just find a new way to happen. And that's
it definitely would, but I get to for in this again, spirit of the question. That's my pick.
Yeah. I'm gonna go as a Dead Space fan. I want to get rid of Battlefield Hardline because I something tells me that Visceral might still exist if that game didn't come out.
And this is a spite,
and they weren't forced to work on that game. Like I know Dead Space 3 didn't quite hit the mark of like the previous two games, but I think it still sold really well. And there are people that love Dead Space 3, and I like it for different reasons. But Battlefield Hardline just felt like such a weird fit for that studio. I remember watching all like the E3 stuff and them talking about it. It's like there's something that feels almost disingenuous about like we're so excited. I can't think of anything else we'd rather work on than this right now. I was like, I don't know if I totally believe that. And like in the year since hearing about like, that game's development and everything, I was like, yeah, that was probably a nugget of truth to like, we really would rather do anything else. So, and that game also isn't great. That's like one of the few Battlefield games I've ever played is that stupid thing.
Oh no.
Really? Just because it was visceral or what?
That, and like, I'm not a huge multiplayer guy. So like, I'm not a Battlefield fan. I'm a Bad Company fan. So I love the stories of those two games. I don't really care about like even though it's fun, like the traditional Battlefield experience. So Hardline, it's still weird though, because I'm not even a cop drama guy. Like I don't like CSI or any of that stuff, and that's basically what that game was going for. I think it was literally just like, well, it's a story-driven Battlefield, and it's made by Visceral, so I'll play this. And I also didn't pay for it. I was working at GameStop at the time, so I just kind of checked it out. But I ran through that thing and was like, this is bad and dumb. And it was set in Florida, so there was a little bit of appeal there too.
Is that my house? No, it wasn't.
But yeah, like the studio closed down not too terribly long after that, but I just feel like, I mean, I know they were working on the Star Wars thing too, but I don't know. I feel like if that game didn't exist, they might still be around.
I know Jason Schreier actually talked about them in his newest book, like Press Reset, which is actually kind of an interesting look if you want to like behind the scenes look about what's going on there. And even just like he talks about Dead Space 3 and why it had co-op and stuff like that. You're like, some of the reasons that those things happened are not Visceral's fault. So that's what I'll say about that. But yeah, that's an interesting call to try to do that and see. It would be interesting just to see, what would be different.
We got some really spicy questions this week. No softballs.
Sure.
They're coming for us here.
It, baby. Let's go.
Kim or Alex, do you want to kill a game?
Can we go back? Not necessarily kill a game, but like
no. You said let's go. Do it, Alex.
I don't have
pull the trigger, Alex.
I don't have a good answer for that. I have like answers for what I would change about. I would go into like the C-suite and be like, hey, Battlefront 2, get rid of those disgusting microtransactions, and maybe you'll have a successful game like that.
But so you want to do like surgical precision, like not kill it. You just want to remove it.
You don't get to do that. That's not the. Come on, man. Come on.
All right. Well, then forget we talked about this. Forget I said anything, and we'll go to Kim.
Oh wow.
Or you can just kill Battlefront 2, like you said you were. I mean, come on.
I mean, like.
Just do it.
If that means
do it, it's
then
the question.
then DICE gets another shot at the Battlefront games because the game it is now, like that should have been a huge piece, and that community grew right as they got it better. But I've never canceled a pre-order. And then when I found out about those microtransactions, I said, absolutely not. You are not getting my money for this. And
were you like the Wesley Snipes crying meme?
Yes, I held the gun up. Yeah, 100%. Like, I grew up with Battlefront, Star Wars, the whole thing. Like, what they were gonna do with that sequel was so exciting to me, and it felt like that Assassin's Creed 2 jump where it's like, okay, this first one was good, the dice-led one was good, but it needed that extra zhuzh that you usually get from a good sequel, and it was building towards that the entire time. And then they were like, oh, low-key, yeah, you have to pay to win this, and like, sorry. And it's like, no, like, absolutely, like, this was not gonna happen. So yeah, cancel it, get rid of it, and then hopefully DICE would get another shot at a Battlefront game. So there you go.
Kim, you seemed excited to kill something.
Oh, that was what I was saying, is that I know this question's all in good fun, so I will play along, but I hate saying I want to kill somebody's game and hard work that they put time and it feels.
I think we all couched our response.
Yeah, we all
sure. Well, what if instead of killing the game, you just kill the developer?
Oh, okay.
Would you have
but the one game that comes to mind that I didn't think needed to exist, and I felt like pushed us back a little. Like I said, I'm doing this in the fun of the question.
Right, we're all here in the spirit of the game.
Forever.
Ooh, interesting. So would you kill it at conception?
Yes. So we didn't have all that waiting didn't go on either.
For 11 years?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So save people the hopes, the time and effort.
What happened instead? Would 3D Realms have like developed a different game, you think, and still exist?
Maybe. That's the thing, right? We wouldn't know. But
we have new Duke Nukem games that are not bad.
Maybe. I mean, that's the thing.
Veritable poo-poo platter of game selections out there for us.
If you killed it then, and then like 10, 20 years went by, they're like, we're going to resurrect Duke Nukem and like bring it back. And then they have the opportunity to start fresh.
Yeah, maybe Duke Nukem
do something interesting with the character, maybe?
What if Duke Nukem got the Doom Wolfenstein treatment?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, honestly, that would have been like, I played those games on PC as a kid, and I would have the Duke games, and that's what I grew up on, actually. It's weird, like the few computer games that I played back in the day. But yeah, I find it interesting that like that was not the way to bring him back. And I wish that, things were a bit different. Yeah. So that's my pick.
Can I choose to kill PT?
You can. You can. I actually get the reasoning behind this one. So
can I kill a game that was already killed? But I think if you kill PT, then it was. First of all, I'm kind of tired of people saying like, "Oh, it's the best horror game." Blah blah. You kind of do away with all that, which is nice. But the reason would be to kill it so that Kojima never got to work on that. And then when he left Konami, maybe that would be the thing he worked on first, and we actually would have got. It wouldn't be called PT, or maybe it would have. It just would have not been Silent Hill.
Oh,
but it could have. That game would actually be out. So by killing it, I resurrect it.
There we go.
I do a Lazarus.
Much like God, you work in mysterious ways. Like we don't understand it now, but later we'll get it.
That's right.
I get it. I understand that answer, and I actually kind of really like it. I see where Ben's going with this.
Yeah.
Clever, Reeves.
Yeah, 4-dimensional chess. That brings us to the last segment of the show, a little segment we like to call Get Wrecked, everybody, where we recommend stuff worth checking out. I want to highlight something. The newest issue of the magazine came out, a couple weeks ago now. It was the Guardians of the Galaxy issue, which hopefully you have in your hot little hands. I did an interview with, Neil Druckmann, and I like how let me read this interview I did. Yeah.
I love this episode. I love this part of the show.
Evan Wells and Neil Druckmann, called Naughty by Nature. It's a cool 4-page interview with those dudes where they talk about their history at the company, some interesting insights into what Naughty Dog's, they don't announce anything, but some sort of hints at what they're doing now and just how they're running the company. They talk about a little bit about crunch and, the heat they've taken for that and how they're trying to rectify that. So it's an interesting interview. Check it out. Marcus, you have anything you want to highlight?
Yeah, get wrecked. So Final Fantasy VII fans, that Intergrade is out for remake on PS5. And Jay, put together a cool list of the 5 best changes of the integrated remake on PS5. So if you haven't played the game at all, or if you would like to replay it but aren't really sure what the difference is or what specific upgrades there are, I think he put together a good list of the 5 kind of new things that they've added to it that might draw you to give that game either a revisit or a first shot. So give that a read.
Cool, Alex.
I would say we got a spicy new Super Replay series out there for you. With 2/3 of the cast here, special guests, Dan Tack.
Alex is stealing my answer.
Damn it! Sorry.
No, promote it. Nice.
Yeah. And I know what you're thinking. They're doing Sekiro. Dan's at the sticks. It's going to be great. Going to be an expert playthrough. Wrong. Well, it still could be. I don't know. Marcus proved his worth last episode under Dan's tutelage, and it's going to be a fun time. And I think this is a good way to kick off another Super Replay. So we have the archive up on YouTube right now, and then you can catch it live on Twitch every Friday, unless we say differently. So definitely go check that out.
Yeah, when Alex says "prove my worth," he wasn't kidding. Reiner pulled me aside and said, "Your job is on the line if you fail this." So that's why I did so well.
Yeah.
Good luck with that one, Marcus, and it'll be sad to see you go. Dan, do you want to highlight the same thing?
I'm sure. I do love our Smooth Fridays, but yeah, I just like to call out all of our awesome Twitch streams that we've been kicking off. You can go check them out on obviously we have a link on Game Informer for them, but on YouTube we have the archives there, and you can go check out like 2 hours of Scarlet Nexus or Super Replay. All of the fun, awesome streaming stuff that we're doing. I'd like to just call that out. We're moving. We're doing stuff.
Moving and shaking for sure.
Come join us,
Kim.
All right. In an effort not to prolong this show too much, I saved you guys the time by writing an article and not responding to Dan on this podcast called "Why Dan Tack is Wrong About Legend of Mana and You Should Play the Remaster." It's actually called "The Beauty of Legend of Mana and Why You Should Play the Remaster." But in case you want to know more of why I love that game and why I think it does some interesting things, there is a whole article on the site that explains things in much more detail. And I didn't want to get into it, and I didn't want to fight with Tack on the podcast, although now I think that would have been entertaining. I should have done that. But why Dan Tack is wrong about Legend of Mana and why you should play the remaster on GameInformer.com.
Awesome. Great choices, guys. That brings us to the end of the show. Thanks for watching or listening, everybody, to this episode of the GI Show. Please like and subscribe. Subscribe to our magazine, of course. And whatever you do, come back next week. We'll have another episode. Until then, everybody, game on.